Beloved chosen one, listen, this is not a coincidence. The reason your heart has felt heavy tonight, the reason your spirit cannot rest, is because heaven has shifted. The winds have changed. You feel it. Something in your bones is stirring, because something is coming. And it's not ordinary. He is coming. Yes, he arrives tomorrow, and with him comes a calling so mighty, so holy. It will demand every ounce of your obedience. But first, you must recognize this moment for what it is. A divine warning before midnight. An alarm in the spirit realm. Sent not to scare you, but to awaken you. You are being pulled out of the crowd because you were never made to blend in. You are different. You are chosen. This is your midnight moment. A spiritual clock has been ticking, and now the second hand is drawing close to the shift. You felt disconnected. You've wondered why everyone else seems fine, but you can't shake this sense that something bigger is coming. That's because something is coming. You've been marked for something sacred, and tonight is a signal that your old season is closing. The distractions, the delays, the doubts, they're all converging now, not to destroy you, but to test whether you are ready. Ready to say yes, ready to rise, ready to let go of what is familiar in exchange for what is holy. God is speaking to you through the noise, through the scrolling, through this very moment. Heaven has pressed pause on everything around you just to get your attention. You've been running long enough. No more hiding. No more shrinking to make others comfortable. You were never meant to be background noise in this generation. You are a voice. You are a vessel. You are chosen. Even when no one believed in you, even when they overlooked you, misunderstood you, rejected you, God didn't. He saw you. Every sleepless night, every silent tear, every moment you questioned if you had a purpose, he saw all of it. And still he says, "You are mine." That's why the attacks have been so relentless. That's why the enemy targeted you early. He saw your light long before you did. Darkness recognized your glow before you knew your name. The pressure you felt wasn't because you're weak, it's because you're dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. This isn't just another day. This isn't just another message. This is divine intervention. This is a heavenly alert. He arrives tomorrow, and what he's bringing cannot be received casually. Your next chapter doesn't begin with comfort, it begins with surrender. And the first surrender is this: your attention. Right now, right here. So stop scrolling. Still your thoughts. Turn your heart toward the one who formed you before time. He's not asking for perfection. He's asking for yes. Your obedience will unlock what your prayers have been preparing for. What's coming is holy. What's coming is weighty. What's coming is him. He doesn't send messengers like this for nothing. And if you've been led here, it's because you're part of something eternal, something divine. Your life has been a setup for this very moment. Every scar, every detour, every failure, it's all converging now for a holy purpose. You are not behind. You are right on time. And yes, there will be cost. There will be loss. But there will also be glory. There will be authority. There will be power. Because when he arrives tomorrow, he's not just coming to visit. You're being called to carry something. A monthly, a mission, a move of God, as it is written in Joel 2:E. Blow the trumpet in Zion, sound the alarm on my holy hill. Let all who live in the land tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming. If your spirit is trembling right now, don't run. Don't numb it. Lean into it. That trembling is your confirmation. It's heaven shaking the dust off your calling. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified. You are not late. You are chosen. And the reason this message found you at this exact time, in this exact moment, is because your assignment begins now. You don't have to understand it all. You just have to answer. Comment 777 below as a prophetic sign that you receive this word. Like, share, subscribe so you stay connected when he speaks again. You were marked long ago, long before the first breath filled your lungs, before your name was spoken in a hospital room, before the world saw your face, he saw you, and he marked you. The world calls it coincidence, but you know better. How can it be chance when the very atmosphere shifts when you walk into a room? Why does the weight of the world press harder on your shoulders than on others? It's because you were never built for ordinary. You were born for divine orders. Chosen one. This isn't flattery. It's spiritual fact. You have been set apart, handpicked, not by people, not by popularity, but by God himself. His fingerprints are on your life. The way you've survived what should have buried you. The way you sense things no one else seems to notice. The way you keep getting back up, even when there's no one cheering. You're not random. You're marked. There's a reason your path has felt lonely. There's a reason you've always felt different, even among family. You don't just carry your name, you carry an assignment. Others carry opinions. You carry destiny. And that's why the weight is heavier on you than on most. Because what God placed inside of you requires strength most people don't understand. You've been called a lot of things. Too much. Too intense. Too sensitive. But what they call too much is actually heaven's signature on your soul. That sensitivity you feel, that deep burden that hits you when you see injustice, brokenness, spiritual emptiness. That's not weakness. That's intercession. That's evidence that your spirit was wired for war, for healing, for restoration. Before you ever chose him, he chose you. That's why, no matter how far you've drifted, something always pulls you back. That invisible string tugging at your soul every time you try to disappear. That's the mark. It won't let you go. You can drown in distraction, hide behind performance, numb yourself with achievement, but the call still finds you. Because heaven never forgets what it has written on your life. You were marked for such a time as this. God does not wait for the world to approve what he's already appointed. He doesn't need consensus to call you, and he doesn't need permission to elevate you. That's why the enemy attacked you so early. That's why the trauma hit you before you could even understand it. Because if he could break you early, he could silence the call. But he failed. You are still standing, maybe limping, maybe scarred, maybe uncertain, but standing. Because what's on you is not ordinary. And no amount of hell can cancel what heaven has declared. When you were in your darkest valley, he was still watching. When you felt like giving up, he was standing over your purpose, guarding it, waiting. Your delay did not delete your destiny. He preserved it, even the shame, the sin, the stuff you don't speak of. None of it shocked God. He saw it all and still said, "Mine." You are not called because you are perfect. You are called because you are marked by mercy. And because of that mark, you cannot blend in. You can't follow the crowd and feel fulfilled. You can't settle for average and feel peace. Your soul starts to ache the moment you ignore the pull of heaven, because you were meant for more. The more is not about fame, not about followers, not about titles. It's about obedience, about becoming a living altar, a vessel that God can use to shake the earth and awaken the sleeping. You are not just chosen, you are commissioned. There's a difference. Chosen means He loves you. Commissioned means He's sending you. And before He sends, He marks. Before He reveals you, He seals you. That's what's been happening all this time. The tears, the silence, the warfare. It was all part of the sealing. He didn't forget you, He was forming you. Because what's coming requires maturity. The next season won't be for show. It'll be for service. Real oil, real weight, real glory. And you'll carry it, not because you fought for it, but because He already wrote your name into the story. You've been part of heaven's plan long before you ever said yes. But now your yes unlocks the door. You're not late. You're not behind. You're not broken beyond use. You are right on schedule. Let the voices fall away. Let the doubts grow quiet. Let the fear shrink back. Because the voice of the one who marked you is louder than all of them. As David declared in Psalm 139, Shalom. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. Nothing about you is random. And what's coming next will prove that every unanswered question, every aching season, every moment of loneliness had purpose. Because when you were marked, you were set in motion. And nothing can stop what God sets in motion. There's a silence you've been sitting in, a silence so heavy it presses on your chest like midnight fog. It isn't the silence of peace. It's the silence that comes just before the sky breaks open. The stillness before a spiritual earthquake. The hush before the glory. You haven't just been isolated. You've been hidden. And there's a difference. Isolation feels like rejection. But hiding, God's hiding, is protection. When God hides you, He's shielding you from what your anointing is not yet ready to face. He's preparing the oil in secret. Because the calling that's coming requires power that doesn't grow in the spotlight. It grows in silence. Chosen one. Your recent quiet season wasn't punishment. It was preparation. The distance, the detours, the silence. It wasn't because God left you. It was because He was forming something too holy to rush. The ones He uses most, He hides longest. And the longer the silence, the louder the glory that follows. Don't despise the silence. The wilderness is God's classroom. It's where He trains the spirit, not just the gift. And that's what He's been doing in you. He wasn't just protecting your future. He was protecting you, from acting too soon, from chasing affirmation, from becoming so focused on assignment that you forget intimacy. You kept asking, why am I alone? But the real question is, what has God been building in the silence? Because something is being birthed in you that cannot be tainted by noise. Something is growing that demands your full focus. Something holy. You've been wondering if the silence means you missed it. But the silence was actually the signal that you're on time. It was the final stretch of stillness before your unveiling, before the arrival. And He, yes, He is almost here. But not just to visit. He's coming to ignite what's been dormant in you for years. Some seasons don't sound like trumpets. They sound like stillness. But the heavens are still watching. Angels still stand guard. The anointing still rests on you. The silence is not abandonment. It's the stage being set for fire. What happens in silence builds what will withstand storms. If you had been launched when you wanted, it would have crumbled. But now you're rooted. Now your identity is no longer tied to applause. Now your obedience is stronger than your insecurity. That's why the silence was necessary. There were rooms you weren't invited into, doors that slammed, people who ghosted you, opportunities that vanished overnight. And you called it failure. But God called it insulation. The kind of insulation that preserves the wine until it's ready to be poured. You see, everyone wants the anointing, but few want the crushing that comes before it. Yet you endured it, alone, quietly. While others partied, you prayed. While others ran, you stayed. While others built platforms, you were being built. And now, the silence is almost over. Something is shifting. The earth underneath your feet has been rumbling. And though you haven't seen it in the natural, the spirit realm has already begun to respond. Heaven has heard your cries, the quiet ones, the ones you whispered into your pillow, the ones soaked in tears. Not one of them was wasted. Even Jesus was hidden. Even he spent years in silence before the miracle began. Don't rush your emergence. When God reveals what he's been forming in you, no one will be able to deny it. It's better to be hidden than exposed prematurely. What God is doing in you must be sustained, not just seen. That's why the silence came first. To protect your roots before your fruit is displayed. You've been anchored in dark soil, but the bloom is coming. And when it comes, it won't be small. It will be evidence that God does not lie. That delay is not denial. That silence is not absence. And that obedience in secret always produces glory in public. Don't be tempted to break the silence too soon. Don't beg to be seen. The one who marked you will reveal you when it brings him glory, not just when it satisfies your pain. Paul reminds us in Galatians 1, Shuvu. But when God, who set me apart from my mother's womb and called me by his grace, was pleased to reveal his Son in me. The revealing is coming. But first, he finishes the refining. And you, chosen one, have almost completed the process. So, sit in the silence a little longer. Breathe deeply. Heaven is not ignoring you. It's preparing the trumpet. Type. Still becoming, because you're not stuck, you're being formed. The silence isn't a sign of delay. It's the sound of God perfecting the oil before it flows. You've heard them before. Those whispers that slip into your spirit like echoes from ancient days. They don't speak in full sentences, yet they pierce with full force. They arrive in dreams, in strange timings, in divine delays that make no sense until suddenly they do. You are not imagining things. This isn't emotional fantasy. You are living in the fulfillment of words spoken long before you ever walked the earth. Prophecies that carried your DNA. Declarations that folded your name into the scroll of heaven's plan. And now, those prophecies are pressing against time. They're breaking through the veil. They are awakening. Heaven has not been silent. It has been precise. There are ancient promises circling your life like eagles, waiting for the alignment of time and obedience. And now, heaven is aligning the two. God is not reacting, he is revealing. Revealing what was spoken over you before the foundations of the world. Revealing what your spirit always knew, but your mind couldn't explain. You are walking into prophecy, step by sacred step. You've been feeling the tension because your soul is brushing against destiny. That's what prophecy feels like. Pressure with purpose. It pulls, stretches, stirs, and won't let you go. It disrupts your comfort because it calls you higher. You were never meant to live a predictable life. The moment you were chosen, the calendar of heaven started counting down to moments like this when the Word and the One meet. What has been declared in the Spirit is looking for a body to inhabit. And you, chosen one, are the vessel. That's why the stirring has returned. That's why you've been sensing more in your sleep, feeling things in your spirit before they manifest. Because the Word is no longer dormant, it's active. The prophecy is now moving. It's breathing. It's circling your name. You've thought you missed your moment. But in God's economy, the prophecy does not expire. It waits. It adapts. It returns. Not because of your merit, but because of His mercy. The words spoken over your life will not fall to the ground. Even if you tried to run, they would find you. Because they were written in blood, not ink. They carry the weight of heaven, not the weight of human expectation. You've been haunted, not by regret, but by memory. Memory of something you've never lived, but always felt. A future that pulls on your present. That's what prophecy does. It haunts your ordinary with the scent of something holy, and you can't shake it. You weren't meant to. The Lord has been whispering to you in ways that only your spirit could interpret. That's why your heart responds when others don't. Why you weep when no one else feels anything. You are responding to echoes. Prophetic echoes that recognize your spirit because you were always part of the story. This is the moment where the story starts catching up to the page you're on, where what was spoken begins to manifest in the natural. You won't have to force it. The prophecy knows where to land. It's been waiting for your alignment, not your striving. You've tried to explain this feeling to people who couldn't possibly understand it. Stop. This is not their word. It's yours. It's personal. Heaven did not announce it to the world. It whispered it to your soul. And now that whisper is becoming a roar. You weren't meant to live beneath what was declared over you. That word didn't come to flatter you. It came to transform you. It came to shake you out of agreement with mediocrity. It came to separate you from imitation, because your calling was never supposed to look like anyone else's. The prophecy over your life has its own rhythm, its own timeline, its own fire. Some of the people around you can't sense what's happening because the word wasn't given to them. Stop waiting for their validation. Noah built an ark in silence. Abraham believed with no roadmap. Mary carried a promise that made no sense to the culture around her. And you are carrying something, too. It may not make sense, but it is real. And yes, there will be resistance. Because prophecy doesn't come without opposition. Every time a true word is spoken, hell reacts. That's why the warfare intensified. Not because you're weak, but because you're close. The enemy recognizes the timeline. He can smell the movement. And he knows once you walk in alignment with what God has declared, his influence over you ends. You've spent too long living beneath your declaration. But now you're coming into agreement. Not just with your mouth, but with your life. With your posture. With your purity. With your decisions. That's where the shift happens. When the vessel begins to reflect the glory of the word, you will see it. What you've only dreamed in shadows will manifest in light. What you've prayed in secret will be fulfilled in front of those who doubted you. Not because of pride, but because prophecy never lies. As it was written in Isaiah 55, "Tree, so is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. The prophecy is not just circling anymore, it's landing. And you, chosen one, are the place where it will touch earth. You've questioned your mind. You've doubted your sanity. You've looked at the pieces of your life and thought, maybe I'm just broken. But listen carefully, you are not crazy. You are called. The dreams that don't go away. The unshakable pull you feel when you try to fit into normal life. The internal conflict when you compromise your standard just to please others. That isn't instability. That is divine disruption. God has been trying to get your attention, and every time you try to quiet that inner voice, He finds a new way to speak. He's spoken through dreams, through delay, through detours that didn't make sense, and through moments of silence so loud it thundered in your spirit. That wasn't madness, it was mercy. Because if He didn't disrupt your path, you would have stayed in a place too small for your calling. You've spent years trying to make yourself easier to digest. You've tried to water down your fire, tried to be normal, but nothing worked, because nothing ever will. You were never called to blend in. You were born to disrupt darkness. That's why the warfare followed you. That's why the anxiety wouldn't leave. That's why depression tried to become your identity. The enemy doesn't torment empty vessels. He attacks the anointed. You've asked God, why can't I just live like everyone else? And the answer has always been the same. Because you're not like everyone else. You are a vessel of weight. You carry something eternal. That unease you feel when you try to ignore your calling, it's not confusion, it's conviction. It's the tug of heaven, reminding you that your time is not your own. Stop running. Stop dismissing the signs. Stop ignoring what your spirit already knows. God has been gently, persistently, and even painfully positioning you for a moment you cannot afford to miss. You're not here by accident, not reading this by mistake. Heaven has scheduled this moment. You are called, and not in a generic sense. You're not just called to be good or moral or inspiring. You're called to carry authority. You're called to shift atmospheres, to speak when others stay silent, to rise when others settle, to walk with fire on your feet and oil on your hands. That's why you were misunderstood. That's why relationships fell apart without warning. You tried to hold on to people who weren't tied to your calling, and when they couldn't recognize the oil, they rejected the vessel. But that rejection, it was redirection. God was clearing the room for your real assignment. You've spent too much time waiting for approval. But the truth is, heaven has already endorsed you. The evidence is in your resilience. You've endured things that should have killed your purpose. And yet, here you are still standing, still hoping, still drawn to the flame. And now, you're closer than you realize. What's coming next is not hype. It's holy. The weight of what God is preparing you to carry cannot be accessed casually. It demands surrender. It demands maturity. It demands that you finally see yourself the way heaven does. No more minimizing your gift. No more apologizing for your sensitivity. No more hiding because others are intimidated by your light. You were never meant to shrink. You were meant to shine. And that shine is not pride, it's prophetic. Your very existence is an answer to someone's cry. You are the proof that God still raises up voices in silence. You are the proof that the wilderness produces warriors. You are the living testimony that being set apart hurts, but it heals others. As it was declared in Jeremiah 1, Woo, Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. You are not a mistake. You are not too late. You are not disqualified. You are exactly who God chose for exactly this moment. If this word is stirring your spirit, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded that they're not crazy. They're called. Let the ones hiding in confusion know that they're not alone. If you've been walking this journey and want to stay connected to more prophetic confirmations like this, make sure you're subscribed. Because these aren't just words. They're divine appointments crafted to realign you with your original design. And if you feel led to sow into what's ministering to your spirit, I know that your support helps multiply this message to others who feel forgotten, lost, or misunderstood. Every seed, no matter the size, becomes part of the mission, awakening God's chosen ones across the earth. But above all, remember this: you are not broken. You are becoming. You are not delusional. You are a divine property, and you are not alone. There are others like you burning quietly in the shadows, waiting for the right word to awaken them. And perhaps, through you, they will finally remember who they are. You've heard the call. You've felt the tug. But before the next step can be taken, something sacred must occur. Surrender. Not partial, not polite, not halfway. Full surrender. Because the weight of what's arriving tomorrow cannot rest on hands still gripping yesterday. There are things you've been carrying that heaven never asked you to hold. Ideas, fears, offense, shame, cycles, habits you've renamed as normal, but are really spiritual quicksand. You've prayed for breakthrough, but still cling to what's breaking you. And now God is saying, let it go. This is holy ground, and holy ground demands emptied hands. You cannot step into the next with fragments of the old still sewn to your identity. You cannot carry divine oil in vessels cracked by rebellion. Yes, God is merciful, but there comes a point like now when mercy requires your yes. Tomorrow, He arrives, not just with affirmation, but with assignment, and your hands must be free to receive it. The next mantle cannot rest on a shoulder still hunched beneath the weight of offense. The next instruction cannot be heard through ears still echoing with the voices of the past. He's been asking you, quietly but consistently, to surrender. And now the request has become a command. This is not about your feelings. This is about alignment. You say you're ready, but are you really? Because readiness is not a mood. It's a posture, a decisión. And some of you are one decision away from stepping into the fire that refines and releases. You've said, God, I'm waiting on you. But the truth is, He's been waiting on you, waiting on your surrender, waiting on your yes without conditions, waiting on you to release the plans you made without Him. Do not miss tomorrow trying to preserve what should have died yesterday. This is the part most skip, the part that costs. Because surrender is not easy. It will break your pride. It will separate you from comfort. It may even make you look foolish in the eyes of people who never understood your process. But that's okay. They didn't choose you. He did. And He's not coming with a suggestion. He's coming with a calling. One that will demand full trust, complete obedience, and daily sacrifice. But with that calling comes access, glory, oil, revelation, power. But first, surrender. You'll have to give up your need to be liked. You'll have to sacrifice the version of your life you idolized. You'll have to lay down control. The dream is still yours. but the path to it has shifted. You can't use old maps for new territory. You've been feeling the agitation in your spirit because the timeline of your destiny has accelerated. Heaven is ready. The release is prepared. But there is one thing God will never override: your will. He can break the ground, but you must bring the seed. He can send the rain, but you must open the soil. He can part the sea, but you must step into it. What comes next isn't for the clever, it's for the surrendered. This is your moment, the quiet, unseen, holy moment where you stop pretending, stop negotiating, stop delaying, and lay it all down. Every hidden compromise, every fear of failure, every plan he never authored, all of it. He is coming, and the ones who will carry what he brings are the ones who have emptied themselves, so he can fill them completely. As it is written in Matthew 16:24, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me." The cross isn't just pain, it's positioning. It means dying to the version of yourself that cannot enter the next season and becoming the one you were always called to be. Tomorrow is not random. It's not symbolic. It is real. A moment written into your story long before you were born. But you must choose to walk into it with clean hands and a pure heart. And so, here is your act of obedience today. Comment 999. Let it be your digital altar, a prophetic number of divine release and surrender. When you type it, let heaven see. You're ready. You didn't imagine the resistance. You didn't make up the pressure. The war over your life has been real, not figurative, not metaphorical, real. And it didn't start when you got older. It didn't begin when you discovered your calling. No, the war began the moment you were marked. Long before you had language for the burden you carry, hell had already recognized your assignment, and it has been trying to cancel you ever since. This is why the attack came so early. The rejection in childhood, the confusion in your youth, the torment in your mind. It all had one goal: to make you question your worth, to convince you that you are weak, broken, disposable. But none of it was truth. It was strategy. The enemy doesn't waste resources on those who pose no threat. He saw what you carried, even when you didn't. He knew your name long before you ever whispered a prayer. Because the darkness always reacts to light, and the light in you terrifies what opposes it. That's why he came for your mind. That's why he distorted your identity. That's why he sent people to wound you, to make you forfeit your crown before you even knew you had one. But what he underestimated was this: you are still here. Tired, maybe. Wounded, for sure. But alive, awake, and now aware. You see it now. The pattern, the cycles, the enemy's tactics to entangle you in shame, fear, and self-hatred. You thought it was just life, but it was warfare. Strategic, relentless, personal warfare. And yet the attack never worked the way it was intended to. If anything, it prepared you. Because what didn't kill you trained you. What didn't break you built you. You are not the same person who entered the fire. You're coming out forged, tempered like steel, with eyes that now see through the fog. And now that you see it, you will not go back. There is something dangerous about a chosen one who finally remembers who they are. The moment you align with your identity is the moment hell loses leverage. Not because the attack stops, but because you stop bowing under its weight. Yes, The war was real, but so is the calling. You weren't targeted because you were weak. You were targeted because you are a gate, a key, a carrier. Something about your presence shifts the air. Something about your voice breaks chains. Something about your very existence is threatening to the kingdom of darkness. And now that you know it, you're accountable to it. You can't pretend anymore. You can't live unaware. You've seen too much, felt too much, survived too much. The war wasn't random, it was confirmation. This is why certain sins clung so tightly, why certain temptations had such a deep grip. The enemy knew that if he could keep you bound, he could keep you distracted. If he couldn't destroy you, he would exhaust you, drain you with toxic people, with spiritual confusion, with cycles of delay. Not because you were a lost cause, but because you were so close to being dangerous to darkness. But every cycle that tried to consume you is now evidence of your preservation. You've been spared again and again, not by chance, but by divine hand. And that preservation was for purpose. You are a weapon, not in your own strength, but by His Spirit. You've stood in rooms you were never supposed to survive, walked through fires that should have left you spiritually paralyzed. But here you are carrying a testimony. You've been armed by adversity, refined by rejection, anointed through affliction, and while others tried to count you out, heaven never lost count. Heaven never blinked. The angels never left post, and God never changed His mind. There's a shift that happens when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start declaring, "Send me." That's the shift of a warrior, and it's happening in you now. What you've battled through is becoming the oil that will cover others. You've wrestled with things in silence so that you could carry power in public. Your private wounds are birthing public breakthrough. This is not just about you. It never was. That's why the war was so fierce, because your obedience will unlock freedom in others. You're not just coming out of the fire, you're bringing others with you. As it is written in 2 Corinthians 4:8-9, we are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. You are not destroyed. You are deployed. Every scar now speaks. Every delay has direction. Every battle you've survived has birthed a new level of spiritual authority. The war didn't destroy your calling, it revealed it. They thought it would break you. They thought what they did, the betrayal, the lies, the abandonment, would finish you. But what they didn't understand is this: what they meant for evil, God has already turned for good. You're not standing here as someone who simply survived. You're standing here as someone who has been reshaped by fire. Every heartbreak, every door that slammed in your face, every voice that tried to silence you was unknowingly helping prepare the vessel. Heaven doesn't waste anything, not even pain. The betrayal taught you how to discern spirits. The rejection refined your discernment. The humiliation killed your pride. The delay built your endurance. God didn't cause the evil, but He certainly reversed it. That's the beauty of the chosen ones. Nothing can be wasted in the hands of a sovereign God. You didn't just recover. You were reformed, transformed. You don't carry what happened, you carry what it produced. That relationship that shattered you, it made space for your identity to take root in God, not in validation. That door that closed, it forced you to build what no one would give you access to. That betrayal, it taught you how to walk alone without losing your song. They thought they were ending something, but in heaven's timeline, They were activating something. There's a reason you couldn't get bitter. Why even in moments of devastation, you still forgave. Why you still prayed when you didn't see results. Why you still gave love when you received betrayal. It's because your spirit has always been connected to something higher than the offense. You've been protected from the weight of bitterness because your calling couldn't afford to carry it. There is a version of you now that only exists because of what tried to break you. And that version, the matured, refined, purged, purified version, is exactly who is required for what's coming tomorrow. Some people left you, and you blamed yourself. But what you didn't realize is that their absence created the silence where God's voice could finally echo. Their betrayal cleared the clutter that kept distracting you from your blueprint. God didn't just remove them, He delivered you. It's not revenge. It's redemption. God doesn't get even, He makes whole. You're not missing anything. Nothing stolen from you will be required to complete your next chapter. If it left, it was either a burden or a blockage. Because what God is building in you now demands clean air, clean hands, and clean focus. And what you're carrying is too holy to be contaminated by bitterness or confusion. You've been chosen to walk in a level of authority that only comes through being misunderstood, through being falsely accused, through being overlooked by men but hand-selected by God. There are some things that can only be learned by being left, some revelations that only come when the crowd is gone. And you are one of the rare ones who learned how to thrive in the absence of applause. That is why God can trust you. You didn't sell your soul for attention. You didn't compromise to keep company. You didn't beg people to stay who were unqualified to walk beside you. Instead, you sat with the pain. You endured the silence. And in that furnace, your foundation was fortified. You've been trained by tears, conditioned by isolation, taught by adversity. And now the very pain that once tormented you is being transformed into purpose. As Joseph said in Genesis 50, Asher, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. You were never just fighting for your own breakthrough. You were contending for generations, for bloodlines, for those who will come after you. That's why the enemy fought you so hard, because what breaks with you breaks forever. You're not just the one who got away, you're the one who's going to lead others out. You're not just free, you're freedom embodied. God has already begun to reverse what was meant for harm. You may not see it yet, but in the spirit, the shift has occurred. The grief has been assigned glory. The loss has been rewritten into legacy. The injustice has been overruled by the Judge of heaven. And the joy that is coming will not be shallow. It will be the kind of joy that laughs in the face of every devil that dared to touch you. The kind of joy that dances on the graves of dead expectations. The kind of joy that reminds hell you were never unprotected. This reversal isn't just personal, it's prophetic. Because when God reverses the curse, He also restores the timeline. You haven't lost time. You haven't fallen behind. You haven't missed destiny. The pain did not disqualify you, it qualified you. So walk boldly, not bitter, not bruised, but bold. Because now you know everything they tried to use against you is being used by God to establish you. You've spent years questioning the path, wondering why things didn't unfold the way you expected, why the timing never matched your prayers, why the doors you fasted for never opened, and why, after all this time, you're still waiting. But heaven wants you to hear this clearly. The divine detours were not mistakes. Every delay, every denial. Every time the answer was not yet. None of it was punishment. It was positioning. The places you thought were dead ends were actually reroutes. God shifting your direction so your destiny could find you in the right place, at the right time. What felt like wasted seasons were actually wombs, hidden places where character was formed, endurance was refined, and distractions were stripped away. You were not being denied, you were being developed. If the door had opened too soon, you wouldn't have been ready. If the platform had come before the crushing, your pride would have ruined the oil. If the relationship had lasted, it would have anchored you to the wrong future. God never forgot your prayers. He protected them by preserving you. Chosen one. You must understand, God doesn't just prepare promises, He prepares people. And that's what He was doing in you all along. Not punishing you, not playing with you, preparing you. Your yes was never wasted. Every tear you sowed in confusion was watering soil for the exact moment you're now approaching. You see, God doesn't waste movement. Even when you wandered, He was still guiding. Even when you resisted, He was still protecting. The story never stopped unfolding, it just took a path you didn't recognize. And that path, it was never off course. It was divine. Detours are heaven's way of protecting you from destinations that look good but lack glory. Because God isn't building your life for applause, He's building it for impact. And impact demands precision. You thought you were late, but really, He was just recalibrating your steps so you'd arrive in the right spiritual position. Not just geographically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Because where you're headed requires maturity, stability, authority. That's what the detours have built. You no longer move for validation. You no longer chase approval. You no longer beg to be seen. You've learned how to walk when no one claps, how to pray when no one responds, how to obey when the reward is invisible. And that is what makes you ready. Don't curse the winding road. It taught you what shortcuts never could. It developed wisdom, resilience, depth. You've learned how to wait well, how to trust, even when trembling. That posture will sustain you when the blessing arrives. Because the promise is still alive. It hasn't expired. It hasn't vanished. It's been gaining weight in the spirit. Growing while you grew. Delayed only long enough for the roots to go deep. And now, something is shifting. You feel it in the tension, in the tiredness that doesn't come from work, but from spiritual contraction. Heaven is preparing to birth something in and through you, and it will not resemble what you lost. It will be better, deeper, lasting. The detour was not failure. It was formation, as we read in Romans 8. Arshaba. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. All things. That includes the broken relationships, the lost time, the career interruptions, the quiet seasons, the years of confusion. God didn't forget them. He wove them into the final masterpiece. And soon, you will see why the no was really a not yet. Why the closed door saved you. Why the painful ending was really a divine redirection. You are not disqualified because you didn't take the straight path. You're qualified because you stayed on the journey. Suppose. Breathe. Look around. You're not lost. You're exactly where you're meant to be, on the edge of divine unveiling. The detours were never setbacks. They were sacred pauses, orchestrated by a God who loves you too much to let you arrive unprepared. Type, I trust you. Let the words echo your surrender. And reaffirm your trust in the God of the detour. The weight of this next season will not be carried by charisma. It will not be sustained by natural talent. This next move of God will rest only upon those who have been crushed and called, because the anointing doesn't come cheap. The anointing will cost you. It already has, hasn't it? You've felt the cost in your body, in your mind, in your relationships. You've carried burdens others couldn't see. You've walked through fire and kept going, even when your feet were blistered by the journey. You've given up comfort for consecration. And now, heaven is drawing near with oil in hand. But understand this. The oil doesn't come to visit. It comes to rest. And it cannot rest on what is still compromised. That is why God has been so serious with you. That's why the pressure increased. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation for power. This oil will set you apart. But it will also expose you to new levels of resistance. This is not for the faint of heart. This is for the surrendered. For those who will say, "Not my will, but yours." For those who will carry the mantle and not chase the spotlight. The anointing costs your pride. It costs your need to be understood. It costs the approval of the crowd. You don't get both the oil and popularity. You don't get both the mantle and the masses. You get God, and He is enough. You've been purified in secret for power in public. That's why certain platforms were withheld. That's why the promotion was delayed. Because God would not allow your gift to take you where your character could not keep you. You had to be made ready. You don't carry what you carry by accident. The mantle on your life isn't decoration, it's weaponry. When God anoints you, hell takes notice. That's why the warfare grew more intense. The closer you came to this moment, you were anointed not to impress, but to impact, to heal, to confront, to break yokes. And the oil on your life will do just that if you protect it. Protect it from compromise, from distraction, from pride. Protect it from people who love your light but despise your discipline. You cannot afford to leak oil to those who refuse to honor its weight. This is why isolation came first. God had to teach you what the oil feels like in silence before you carry it in front of men. He had to anchor your identity in Him. So when others misunderstand your calling, you don't cave under their opinion. And now the oil is ready. Not because you are perfect, but because you are postured. Because you have surrendered your image. Because you no longer chase opportunities, you wait for assignments. This next season isn't about being seen, it's about being effective. That's what the anointing does. It makes the impossible bow. It breaks cycles that psychology can't explain. It sets captives free with one whisper, one touch, one prayer. You are being entrusted with heaven's fire. And that fire must be stewarded. As it is written in 1 John 2, Asher, but you have an anointing from the Holy One, and all of you know the truth. You know it, deep in your spirit. You feel the weight of what's coming. You feel the call to higher, to deeper, to a life that cannot be lived halfway. That's the cost. You don't get to live casually. You don't get to say yes and then turn back when it's inconvenient. The anointing doesn't make you invincible, it makes you responsible. And to whom much is given, much is required. But you're ready now. Not because you feel it, but because you've survived the process. The fire has burned off the excess. The detours have refined your discernment. The delay has increased your depth. You are not just chosen, you are prepared. So when He pours, don't hesitate. Don't doubt your readiness. He does not anoint perfect people. He anoints surrendered ones. and your surrender has reached heaven's courts. Your yes has unlocked the seal. You are about to carry something sacred, something powerful, something generational. If this word is confirming what your spirit has felt, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who has been feeling the weight but didn't understand the cost. Let them know the pressure has purpose, the process has power, the anointing is near. And if this message is watering seeds in your soul, consider staying connected. Subscribe to keep receiving what heaven is releasing. These aren't just messages, they're alignments. Divine confirmation. You've walked too long without language for your calling, but that ends now. If you feel led to partner financially, not out of obligation, but revelation, know that your giving helps multiply this word into places and people you'll never meet, but who are desperate for this very truth. Your seed becomes a signal, a holy partnership in awakening God's chosen ones across the earth. But whether you give or not, your obedience is the offering that matters most, because oil is never free. But, oh, what it births is beyond price. It hurt when they left. The way they withdrew without warning, the silence that followed, the sudden absence of voices you thought would echo with you forever. The ones you prayed with, dreamed with, maybe even bled with, gone. And though you told yourself it was their loss, your heart still wondered, what did I do wrong? But hear this. Chosen one, you did nothing wrong. Their departure was not punishment. It was preparation. God removed access, not because you failed, but because they couldn't handle what's coming next. Your calling is weighty, and not everyone can carry the weight of your assignment, not in proximity, not in relationship, not even in understanding. Some walked away because their hearts could not recognize what heaven was forming in silence. Some left because they were only graced for your past, not your future. When God begins to shift you into purpose, He also begins to edit your circle. You were never meant to drag people into destiny. The ones who are meant to run with you will not need convincing. They will see the oil. They will feel the weight. They will honor the fire, not compete with it. The ones who left, their exit was scheduled. They did not betray you, they revealed themselves. And that revelation was necessary, because where you're going, God will not allow divided loyalty or subtle sabotage to contaminate what He's about to release through you. You can't afford friendly fire. Not in this season. Let the exits remain closed. Don't reopen doors God has sealed. Don't try to explain your transformation to people who only understand your history. What they thought was a breakdown was actually a breakthrough. What they mistook as instability was your reconstruction. And now that the foundation has been rebuilt, the elevation is near. You're not bitter. You're not angry. You're aware. You finally see it for what it was. You weren't rejected. You were protected. You weren't abandoned. You were repositioned. Their absence made space for divine alignment, for new voices, for partnerships that don't just comfort you, but call you higher. It had to happen this way, because loyalty to the wrong people would have compromised your legacy. And God loves you too much to let comfort sabotage calling. You've grown. You've healed. You've outgrown environments that once felt safe. That's not pride. That's evidence of your maturity. You're not called to stay where you were simply because you started there. Purpose is progressive. Destiny demands movement. And sometimes, movement looks like separation. They didn't see the full vision because they weren't meant to. God gave you the burden. He placed you in the fire. He anointed you to walk this road. Stop shrinking your obedience to preserve someone else's comfort. You weren't designed to be held in place by relationships that no longer fit the oil on your life. Even Jesus had to leave Nazareth. Even he was rejected by his own. You are not alone in this pattern. Luke 4:24 says, "Truly I tell you, no prophet is accepted in his hometown. You were never meant to be understood by everyone, especially not those who only know you by your old name, your past mistakes, your former self. Let them go. Forgive them. Bless them. Release them, but don't carry them where they were never meant to be. Carrying unassigned people into your next season will slow the mission and weaken the mantle. This is a holy thinning, not rejection. Refinement. You are being trimmed to carry more. The fewer distractions, the greater the focus, the quieter the room, the louder heaven's voice becomes. So do not fear the silence. Do not grieve what God has pruned. The tree remains, and soon the fruit will speak for itself. You will look back on this season and thank God he did not let you keep what your emotions tried to protect. You'll thank him for closing doors you begged him to open, for silencing voices you thought you needed. And when the unveiling comes, when the mantle is visible, and the anointing breaks yokes, and the very ones who left hear your name whispered in the winds of revival, you will not gloat. You will not boast. You will weep, because you'll finally see what God saw all along. You were never abandoned. You were chosen. Something in your spirit knows it. You felt the pressure building. The air around you feels different. Your appetite has shifted. Your discernment has sharpened. The same things that used to satisfy you now feel empty. That's because tomorrow changes everything. This isn't symbolic. This isn't poetic. This is prophetic. You're standing at the edge of a divine appointment, written into your life before time began. And now, the alignment is here. The clock in the spirit is striking. The earth is shifting beneath your feet, not to shake you down, but to raise you up. Your obedience in this moment will decide more than just your next step. It will decide who you become. This is where words must become action, where belief becomes obedience, where faith is no longer something you speak, but something you walk. You cannot postpone what heaven is demanding. You cannot delay the call any longer. Tomorrow is the threshold, and either you cross it with open hands and a ready heart, or you watch what was meant for you pass by, waiting for someone willing to say, yes. There will be no more neutral ground. The season of spiritual indecision is over. God is drawing lines, not to punish, but to separate. He's dividing comfort from calling, hesitation from holiness, flesh from fire. And he's asking you to step forward, not when you feel ready, but because the time is now. You don't need more confirmation. You don't need another sign. You've already received the word, the warning, the whisper, and now comes the requirement. Obedience. It won't feel convenient. Obedience rarely does. It will stretch you. It will interrupt your plans. It will expose your weaknesses. But it will also unlock doors that no man can shut. The kingdom doesn't respond to good intentions. It responds to surrendered action. What you do next will ripple beyond your life. You are part of a greater chain, a generación, a movement. You are not just obeying for yourself, you are obeying for the ones tied to your obedience, the ones watching, the ones waiting, the ones who will follow the path you choose to clear. This is legacy. This is responsibility. This is kingdom. And yes, the enemy will try to distract you. Even now, the warfare has increased. Disruptions, fatigue, doubt, confusion. But do not be moved. The closer you get to the promise, the louder the resistance becomes. Not because you're failing, but because you're arriving. You're not hearing this by accident. You're hearing this because heaven wants you to know. Tomorrow is not optional. It is ordained. There are things that must break, things that must begin, words that must be spoken, prayers that must be released. You are carrying something that must be birthed now, not when it feels easy. Now, tomorrow's shift will require sacrifice, but with it will come divine clarity, unshakable peace, holy acceleration. The fog that clouded your vision will lift, the weight that bent your back will break. The answer you've been fasting for will arrive in Him, because He is coming, and He is not coming casually. This is why you had to be refined. This is why relationships shifted. This is why certain doors stayed closed. This is why the silence was so loud. Because tomorrow demands a version of you that only obedience could shape. You've gone through too much just to quit here. You've cried too many tears just to miss the moment. You've walked through too much fire to turn back now. And now tomorrow the mantle comes. The one that matches your scars. The one that fits your hands. The one that was made only for you. As it was declared in Deuteronomy 30, Shidzio. This day I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live. This is a choosing moment. Choose life. Choose obedience. Choose the path that was always meant for you. Comment 444. Let it mark your readiness for divine transition. A prophetic number that echoes obedience and forward movement. You should have broken. You should have lost your mind. The enemy was convinced he had you surrounded, convinced the fire would consume you. But it didn't. You walked through it, and the fire could not touch you. The intensity of your past season wasn't random. It was a furnace. A refining place where what was weak in you was burned away and what was divine was revealed. And now, you stand not as someone who barely escaped, but as one who was made fireproof. You didn't survive by accident. You were sustained by grace, by prayer, by an unseen hand that covered you when no one else knew how close you were to collapse. And now, what once tried to bury you has become the platform beneath your feet. You are part of a remnant, a rare company of those who were willing to walk through fire and still worship. You didn't curse God when it hurt. You didn't fold when it got dark. You didn't walk away when it got quiet. You stayed. You obeyed. And because of that, something eternal was forged inside you. This is more than survival. This is transformation. You no longer just carry hope, you carry proof. Proof that God is faithful. Proof that grace holds even when strength runs out. Proof that divine purpose outlasts demonic strategy. You've been marked not by what you avoided, but by what you endured. You didn't escape the fire. You passed through it. And you emerged with authority that can't be mimicked, and discernment that can't be taught. There is a quiet power about you now, a stillness, a weight. You're not quick to speak anymore, not because you lack voice, but because you've learned that true fire doesn't need to shout. It just burns. You're a walking contradiction to everything the enemy predicted. You smile with scars. You pray with pain still present. You give out peace, even while healing. That's not performance. That's glory. And now, everywhere you walk, the fire that once tried to destroy you becomes the light that guides others. You've been sent back, not empty, but equipped. There's a difference between inspiration and impartation. Anyone can inspire. Only those who have been through real warfare can impart. And you, chosen one, are an imparter now. You've walked through things others are currently drowning in. You carry a grace that others are desperate to feel. When you speak, atmospheres shift. Not because your voice is louder, but because your spirit has authority. You've warred in silence, cried without witnesses. You've fought invisible battles, and now your presence alone confronts darkness. The enemy knows it. That's why he's tried to isolate you again. That's why mental fatigue has returned. He senses that the weight you now carry is different. And it is. You're not walking in theory, you're walking in testimony. Just like the 3 Hebrew boys in Daniel's furnace. You went into the fire bound, but you came out loosed. Daniel 3:27 says, "They saw that the fire had not harmed their bodies, nor was a hair of their head singed, their robes were not scorched, and there was no smell of fire on them." There's no smell of smoke on you, no trace of the hell you walked through. People wouldn't believe the story unless you told it. That's how deep the covering was. That's how total the protection is. And now, God is preparing to show the world what He hid in you. You didn't survive just for yourself. Your survival was strategic. It was for the ones coming behind you, for the voices that haven't yet been found, for the callings that are buried beneath fear and compromise. You are walking ahead, not just as a testimony but as a pathfinder. You've become the proof that fire cannot cancel favor, that the wilderness doesn't nullify the word, that the silence of God is not the absence of God. And now, as you rise, the heavens prepare to amplify what has been cultivated in secret. The fire didn't disfigure you, it defined you. Your perspective has changed. Your circle has changed. Your appetite has changed. And all of it has positioned you for influence that cannot be bought or faked. You are about to lead people out of places you once barely survived. And that is why the fire was necessary. Not because God delights in pain, but because He prepares generals in battle, not boardrooms. Your eyes have seen too much to live casually now. Your spirit has felt too much to go back. There is no going back. You are no longer who you were. You've been refined, reformed, reborn. And what you carry now is sacred. It has always been in you. Long before you ever opened your mouth, your voice was written into the strategy of heaven, not your physical voice, but the voice of your spirit, the resonance of your assignment in the earth. It's more than speech. It's sound. It's authority. It's the echo of obedience. And now, that voice is awakening. You were not called to blend in. You were not created to stay silent in moments where truth is required. You've felt it rising like fire in your bones. You've tried to silence it, out of fear, out of self-doubt, out of weariness. But heaven has placed a frequency in your soul that shakes kingdoms. There is a realm in the spirit that only responds to your voice. It doesn't matter how loud others shout. It doesn't matter how many titles they hold. What you carry is unique, irreplaceable. Hell has known your voice long before you did. That's why silence was imposed on you early. That's why shame tried to seal your mouth. Because if you ever released your full sound, the earth would shift. And now, the silence is breaking. What you've survived has qualified you to speak with authority, not polished words. Prophetic ones. Words that don't just inspire but cut. Words that dismantle lies and rebuild truth. Words that wake people up from spiritual comas. Your voice carries oil now. You don't just speak from theory. You speak from encounter. You've walked with God in dark places. You've prayed through nights when hope was gasping for breath. You've been crushed. And what flows from crushed places is always pure. You are not just a voice for yourself. You are a trumpet for others. You carry the language of the remnant, those who are rising, weary but willing. Your story is their prophecy. Your sound is their map. That's why your silence felt like torment. You were never meant to stay quiet. There is a roar building in your spirit. And it was never meant to impress. It was meant to invade, to tear down lies, to disarm strongholds, to announce that the chosen ones are awake. Don't minimize it. Don't question it. Don't filter it. The voice God gave you is not common. It's not cute. It's a sword, a battering ram, a weapon of disruption against systems of darkness that have stood for far too long. You've been refined in secret so that your words will carry weight in public. You've been hidden not to be silenced, but to be sharpened. And now, the time of sharpening is coming to an end. You've been loosed to speak, to declare, to call forth. There are people who will come alive simply because you dared to speak what God whispered to you. There are atmospheres that will shift, not when you scream, but when you release what is pure. The oil in your voice will do the work. And yes, it will cost you. Your voice will make you a target. It will make you misunderstood. It will cost you relationships, opportunities, invitations. But let it. You were never meant to be accepted by culture. You were sent to confront it. The prophets were never adored. They were resisted, not because they were wrong, but because they were right before their time. And now, so are you. As it was spoken in Luke 10, Shizyo, I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. Your voice is not just your gift, it's your mantle. And when you release what God has given you, the enemy loses ground. Every time you speak truth, chains break. Every time you intercede, something shifts. Every time you obey, territory is taken. You are not soft-spoken in the spirit. You are thunder. And heaven is calling you to release the sound. Not everyone will understand it. Not everyone will accept it. That's not your job. Your job is to speak with clarity, with boldness, with reverence, with power. You've been given a divine frequency that unlocks hearts, rattles systems, awakens sleepers. And now, heaven is giving you permission to use it. The sound you carry doesn't come from a microphone. It comes from the crushing, from the midnight prayers, from the wilderness process. It comes from obedience. And obedience always speaks louder than talent. You don't need a stage to make impact. You just need a word from God and the courage to release it. And when you do, hell will remember why it tried to shut you up, but it failed. Because now, your voice is not just speaking, it's commanding. When you move, things shake. Not because you're loud, not because you're trying, but because of what you carry. You don't walk lightly in the spirit. You walk with weight. You've been through too much to come out empty. You are heaven's earthquake. Every step you take now disrupts darkness. Every word spoken in obedience causes tremors in spiritual systems that have long tried to keep people bound. Your presence in a room is not neutral. It changes the atmosphere. And it's not because of charisma. It's because of consecration. There is a heaviness to your walk now, not because you're burdened, but because you're loaded. loaded with oil, loaded with revelation, loaded with scars that now shine as proof of resurrection. And everywhere you go, the kingdom of darkness takes notice. You don't just carry revival, you are revival. Walking, breathing, moving, praying evidence that God still raises the dead and still sends fire through ordinary vessels. You are not just being sent, you are being deployed. And where you step, territory shifts. That's why you couldn't stay in the old place. That's why the familiar dried up. Because the weight on you demands fresh ground. The shaking you feel is not destruction, it's transition. The earth is responding to the weight you carry. Destiny is responding to your alignment. You were never meant to tread lightly. You were made to stomp on the heads of serpents. You were designed to interrupt cycles, disrupt strongholds, and awaken dead places with just your obedience. This is why the enemy has fought your movement. He wanted to keep you stuck, bound by fear, paralyzed by insecurity. Because he knows, once you move in obedience, you become unstoppable. There's a rhythm to your anointing now, a momentum. You've been walking in private, but you're about to move in power. You've been faithful in silence, and now heaven is releasing you with sound. Chosen one, you are not a wanderer, you are a warrior. And where you walk, the old systems will fall, traditions will tremble, comfort zones will crack, because you're not walking alone, you're walking with fire. The same God who walked with Elijah, with Deborah, with Paul, he walks with you. You are part of that same unshakable lineage. And every step you take forward is not just for you, it's for generations. You're not reclaiming small ground. You're shifting bloodlines. When you said yes, heaven mobilized around your obedience. Angels were dispatched. Chains began to tremble. And now, you're stepping into places that were never meant to be entered by the unholy. But you walk in covered. You walk in called, as it is written in Joshua 1, San, I will give you every place where you set your foot, as he promised Moses. This isn't symbolic, it's sacred. Every step is a strike. Every prayer is a push. Every word of truth, a tremor. That's why you feel so heavy lately. That's not depression. That's destiny. That's not anxiety, it's activation. Your spirit knows something is shifting, and your body is just catching up. You've prayed for impact. You've prayed to be used. But impact doesn't come with ease. It comes with earthquakes. And when you are an earthquake, people will feel you before they understand you. Don't apologize for the weight. Don't shrink because your steps cause things to fall. Let them fall. What can be shaken should be shaken, so only the unshakable remains. You're stepping into rooms where what's fake will be exposed, where strongholds will be confronted, where what's been tolerated for decades will be disrupted in a moment just because you walked in. You are a divine interruption, a collision point between heaven and earth, a walking manifestation of what happens when surrender meets power. So stop questioning your influence. Stop waiting to be invited to tables God's called you to flip. Stop asking for confirmation when the ground already testifies. You've been faithful when no one saw you. You've obeyed when no one clapped. And now, heaven has marked your steps with fire. Your footprints are not fading, they are forming pathways for others. If this word resonates in your bones, don't keep it to yourself. There are others who are trembling in transition, not knowing that the shaking they feel is their own breakthrough beginning to stir. Share this with them. Let your tribe hear the sound. Type, I carry fire. Your obedience doesn't need a spotlight. just a response. Let this be your moment to say, I feel it, I accept it, I'm moving. And if these words continue to stir something deep within, don't walk alone. Subscribe and stay connected to this stream of revelation. There's more coming, and it's not hype, it's heaven. Should you feel led to sow into what's feeding your spirit, do so not from pressure, but from alignment. Every seed fuels the mission. It enables this word to reach hearts and nations, not just timelines. It becomes a part of the movement. But even if you never give $1, remember this: you are the earthquake. You are the storm that shakes systems. And when you move, everything must respond. There comes a moment when delay is no longer about timing. It becomes a test of your alignment. A holy tension arises in your soul, not because God has changed, but because you've outgrown the pause. And now, chosen one, hear this clearly. This is the last delay. No more circling the same mountains. No more repeating cycles disguised as seasons. No more postponing obedience with polished excuses. What was once tolerated is now disobedience. What was once process has now become procrastination. The line has been drawn, and heaven is waiting on your next step. This is the final call for alignment. You've waited for conditions to be perfect, but obedience was never about perfection. It was about timing. And that timing is now, not tomorrow, not when I feel ready, not after another confirmation. The cloud is moving, and if you don't move with it, you will be left where grace once was, but no longer is. The presence of God doesn't dwell where comfort rules. It dwells where obedience flows. And the moment you choose comfort over conviction, the oil begins to dry. Not because he's cruel, but because he's holy. You've been given more than enough signs. The restlessness in your spirit, the closed doors, the loss of appetite for things that used to fulfill you, all of it has been heaven saying, shift, change direction. Step into the thing I've been preparing you for. But every delay now carries a cost. Not just the cost of time, but of impact. Every moment you delay is a moment a soul goes unreached, a prayer goes unanswered, a door remains closed to someone who needed your yes to unlock it. This isn't just about you anymore. The urgency you feel isn't anxiety. It's prophetic agitation. Your spirit knows something is about to break, and if you hesitate, you'll miss the door while it's open. The old version of you can't cross over. The version that overthinks, overplans, and undertrusts it must be laid to rest. God is calling for the bold you, the obedient you, the available you. You've been saying, God, I'm waiting on the release. But the release has already come. The trumpet has sounded in the spirit. The shift has been decreed. It's not pending. It's present. Hesitation now is rebellion dressed in caution. You must choose, not emotionally, spiritually. Your indecision is no longer harmless. It's becoming a weight. And if you keep waiting, you will begin to lose sensitivity. You'll become dull in the spirit, unable to discern the doors when they do open. And that is a terrifying place to be, because heaven does not repeat itself forever. Divine moments come with expiration dates. And this right here, right now, is one of those moments. The time of excuse has ended. This is the time of response. You are being summoned, not casually, not softly, commanded. As we read in Hebrews 10, Sanchaliu, you need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised. The promise does not follow potential, it follows obedience. God has not forgotten what He spoke over your life, but He will not force your feet to move. The same God who parted the sea will wait until you step. He will not drag you into destiny. He will invite you, and then watch your response. This is the moment you fasted for, prayed for, wept for, and now it's here, wrapped in responsibility, coated in tension, but waiting to be opened by your yes. You don't need another prophecy. You are the prophecy, walking, breathing evidence that God fulfills His word. But prophecy without action is just potential, and potential without motion becomes disobedience. Heaven is not calling for perfect. Heaven is calling for willing. You've been in delay long enough. Now comes the separation. The ones who will walk in fire, and the ones who will settle for smoke. The ones who will run through open doors, and the ones who will sit beside them, wondering what could have been. You are not too late unless you stay still. This is your moment, not because you earned it, but because you were chosen for it. And now that the time has come, there will be no more grace for delay. What you move toward now will multiply. What you obey now will overflow. What you release now will return pressed down, shaken together, and running over. But you must decide. Not tomorrow, not after another sign. Now, the hour is late, the veil is thin, and heaven is leaning in with fire in its breath. This is not a distant hope. This is not an abstract promise. This is the moment. He arrives at midnight, and He does not arrive empty-handed. He comes with oil, with crowns, with scrolls that bear your name, sealed in glory, waiting for your hands to open them. But the ones who will receive what He brings are not the casual, not the curious. They are the consecrated. You have been prepared in the shadows for this hour. Heaven has walked with you through fire, through silence, through suffering, not to punish you, but to preserve you, because what's being released cannot rest on fragile shoulders or faltering hearts. You didn't just survive for survival's sake. You were reserved, hidden like a weapon for the exact moment when heaven would say, "Now," and this is your now. Midnight is not just a time on a clock. It is a spiritual doorway, a holy threshold between what was and what must be. And now, with every tick, the veil between promise and possession grows thinner. You're not just approaching the moment. You are in it. And the arrival is not external only. It is internal. He is not just coming to meet you. He is coming to fill you, to overtake your fear with fire, to replace your doubt with dominion, to burn away the last residue of delay and drench you in assignment. This is the crown moment, not the reward for performance, but the divine affirmation of a life yielded. This crown does not rest on those who chase platforms. It rests on those who have been poured out in the quiet place, on those who bled privately and worshipped anyway, on those who obeyed when it cost everything. Heaven is not impressed with skill. Heaven crowns surrender. And you, chosen one, have surrendered. You may not have gotten it all right, but you never gave up. You may have wavered, but you never walked away. And now the one who watched every tear, every trembling prayer, every whispered, yes, He has arrived. His presence does not announce itself with fireworks. It descends with glory. And if your spirit is still enough, you will feel it even now. The weight of it, the holiness of it, the purity of a moment so divine that everything else begins to blur. Everything else begins to fall away. This is the moment where crowns are placed on those who endured the crushing, where mantles fall on shoulders that have been forged in fire, where voices that have been silenced by rejection begin to rise with prophetic thunder. Because midnight is not just the end of something, it is the beginning of everything, and what begins now cannot be reversed. What God is releasing in this moment is not temporary. It is not shallow. It is not emotional. It is eternal. It is oil that won't evaporate, fire that won't fizzle out, purpose that won't be shaken by opinions. The arrival marks a separation. Those who remained will now be revealed. Those who were hidden will now be honored, not by man, but by God. The vindication is not public applause, it is divine promotion. You are stepping into the season where your obedience speaks louder than your reputation, where what they thought was failure is revealed to be faithfulness, where your scars become your signature proof that God chose you, not because of your perfection, but because of your posture. You bowed low, and now you rise crowned. The world may not notice at first. That's okay. Heaven noticed. And when heaven marks you, the earth must respond. The clock is striking, and as it does, a sound is echoing in the spirit, a sound of doors opening, scrolls unrolling, chains breaking, and angels moving in synchronization with your destiny. There is a holy acceleration happening, not because you've earned it, but because you were chosen for it. And what he brings with him is not just for you. It is for those who will come after you, those who will read your life like a blueprint, those who will find courage in your scars, those who will rise because you refuse to bow to fear. This is bigger than you, and yet he chose you. The weight of that crown will feel heavy at times. The oil will isolate you. The fire will demand everything, but what you carry now cannot be undone. What has been released into your spirit cannot be revoked. You are sealed. You are crowned. You are ready. Beloved, chosen one, if your spirit is still trembling, that's because heaven has truly spoken, not to flatter you, not to stir emotions, but to awaken what's been waiting inside you for far too long. You are not here by accident. You are not scrolling by chance. This moment was written, and now that the word has found you, the next step is yours. This message wasn't just crafted to speak to your pain, it was created to ignite your purpose. If even one sentence pierced your heart, if you felt seen in places no one else has understood, then you know this was divine. Don't let it stop here. Let it move you. Like this post, if it confirmed what you've been carrying in silence, share it. If you know someone else walking through fire who needs to hear that crowns still fall at midnight, subscribe so you don't miss what God is about to reveal next. These aren't just messages, they're marching orders for the remnant rising. And if your heart feels stirred to go further to help carry this word to others across nations and languages, consider sowing into this assignment. Your seed doesn't pay for a word. It partners with what heaven is doing through it. Every offering is a ripple. Every gift is a gate open to someone else's awakening. Comment below. I receive the crown. Let it be your public. Yes, your digital amen, your declaration to hell and all of heaven. You are ready. You've been chosen, prepared, refined, and now you are crowned. Step forward. The King has arrived.